Hey guys, and welcome to episode 5 of the Equity Podcast. I'm Joe, and this is Berek. As you can see, we're back in the gym. We're socially distancing with a barbell as our guideline. We're 7 feet apart. Today, our main topic is overcoming the 3 biggest fears of starting CrossFit. We're going to break down those fears and explain to you how to get over them and why they're not really that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Then we're going to move into some member questions, and that'll be it for today.
Yeah. The biggest thing about CrossFit is the community. Mm-hmm. And we want to be able to support each other. So in this time, we want to make sure we're supporting other members. And one of those is Ed and Sarah. So they've been members with us for a long time. And they have their bed and breakfast in at the canal. And they also have a bar, the Rum Run Lounge, they're based out of southern Chesapeake City. And in this time, it's really tough on small businesses, and the bed and breakfast is ideally, it's not something that can be open, and the bar is takeout only. So, if you're looking for something to do on a weekend and looking for something, support them and help support that local economy, it can be really helpful. And they've supported us in the past. Obviously, they're members here. They've helped us with War of the Masters competition, sponsoring that event. So we just want to say thank you to them. And, if you guys can support them, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So our main topic today is overcoming the 3 biggest fears of starting CrossFit. And the first really, really big fear that most people have, they're just afraid to start. They're just intimidated by CrossFit. They don't really understand it. And I know for me, that was a really big concern. It took me a while to actually commit and say yes to doing it. It was a pretty big hurdle.
Yeah. First, before we get there, getting used to the mic is really weird.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm talking to the camera, whereas I just have the mic right here.
I know. We'll see if this actually works.
But yeah, we've been doing this since 2012, yeah. And we constantly get all the time talking about people that actually work up the nerve to come in, the countless no sweats intros that I've done, people just dropping in, and then, talking to friends and people around that hear about it. And the first thing is they're intimidated. They see all the crazy stuff on ESPN or on TV. They see, stuff we're doing. And it's like, oh, I can't do that stuff, right? And it can be intimidating. But what people don't realize, they only see what is intimidating. They don't see the other sides of that. They don't see that it's everyday people doing it. It's every job, every age, every skill level is doing it, right? We have people that are working construction. We have people that are nurses. We have teachers. We have students, that broad range. And then we have 14-year-olds. We have 67-year-olds, and everywhere in between. We have moms. We have dads. Everybody's doing it. And they've been in their shoes before. We've all felt that intimidation, and it was really hard to get in that door. But since we've felt that as well, there's a sense of there's a connection there, and they're gonna bring you in. They're gonna treat you like one of the tribe, right? Because that's what we do. We have, when people come in, we bring them in with open arms. We want you to get better and reach your goals, and everybody in the community wants to see that. Yep. So it's one of those. Yes, it is tough, but once you kind of get in, you're like, oh, I didn't. That was silly.
Yep. We love seeing new faces, and we're always welcoming people with open arms that want to try it out. Another really big hurdle for people, or mental block, is they think they're not in good enough shape. They're afraid that they're just going to die as soon as they start CrossFit because they're not at the level they need to be, because CrossFit was hard and challenging.
Yeah. I think all 3 of these fears, I think, are kind of linked.
Yeah.
And you hear it all. I can't do all that stuff. Yeah. I can't do a muscle up. I can't do all those crazy things. Well, you don't have to.
Yeah.
And I can't run. Well, yeah. How do you start learning how to run? You slowly build up to it. And that's exactly what we do in our classes. That's what CrossFit is, what's going to get you in shape. You don't do something else to get in shape to do CrossFit. You do CrossFit to get in shape, right? Yeah. You do functional movements at a high intensity in a bunch of different ways, right? And that's what's going to get you in shape, right? That's what's going to help move that needle. It's going to help you improve your health. It's going to help you improve your fitness. It's going to help you improve your quality of life. So most people don't come in with pull-ups and being able to lift all this crazy weight. I think a perfect example is Cole. Everybody sees Cole as this untouchable, awesome athlete, which she is. But she did not come in to the gym with all of those skills. She did not have pull-ups, right? I remember seeing her on a band doing pull-ups, right? We've all been there, and she's worked her ass off to get where she is now.
Yep.
So it's one of those things. You start wherever you're at, and you slowly build up, and we're going to help you get there.
Yep. And the last thing that people are mostly afraid of is not wanting to get hurt. They think that CrossFit's really open to injury, and it has that reputation of just like really being an easy way to hurt yourself.
This is the one that probably gets my goat the most. The first two, that's not something you can control really. But the last one is just a bunch of baloney. First thing is we're not just functional fitness at a relative high intensity, right? We're a coaching. This gym is about coaching. That is the value that we bring. We bring the expertise of making sure you're moving well and reaching your goals. That's what we want to do. So every single class, you have eyes on you, making sure that you're moving well and making sure that you're staying safe so you don't get hurt. With any physical activity, it doesn't matter what you're doing, there is a chance of injury, right? You can be gardening and you're bent over and you get up too fast and you tweak something in your back. You could be playing flag football on the weekend. You could be golfing, right? And throw your hip out. It doesn't matter what physical activity there is. There's obviously there's a chance of risk, but we're trying to mitigate that risk as best we can.
Yep.
One of the ways we do that is through a concept we call mechanics, consistency, intensity. So first, what we want to do is we want to see mechanics. We want to make sure you're moving well. And once you start moving well, we want to see those mechanics consistently, right? It's very easy to move well in a warm-up versus in a workout when your heart rate is near max, right? When you start moving at that high intensity and your form goes crap, the chance of injury jumps. Yep. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we're consistently moving well no matter what. Every workout, beginning, end of the workout, weeks, months, we want to see that consistency. Then once we see that consistency, then we can bring the CrossFit in, which is the intensity. Yep. And the intensity is the shortcut to results, which it isn't a shortcut. It's hard, but that's what people associate with CrossFit. Yep. So we really make sure that we see that first. So, if we have a workout with snatches and burpees, we're going to take our time with the snatches, right? If it's something that you're not comfortable with, it's something you're learning. But on the burpees, it's not really a super complex movement.
Fall down and get up.
You get on the ground, you get up. So we can kind of up that intensity, but that snatch level, we're going to bring that down a little bit, take our time with it. And then the final piece is all of our workouts, when we're allowed in the gym, we have levels. So we have 3 different levels programmed for every workout. And that is to, like we were talking about before, everybody's at a different level, right? You have the people who's just starting out. You have that mid-range, that somebody who's been doing it for maybe 6 months to a year. And then you have the vets who've been doing this for, years. Mm-hmm. And what we want to do is we start with that initial level where it is very obtainable, right? Most people will be able to do that workout without changing anything. Then that second level is something where you got to work for it.
Yep.
Like you need to be 6 months really working hard and putting the work in. And it's challenging. It does everything it needs to do, but it's going to take some work to get there. And then finally we have that highest level, where it is the heaviest weights, the most skilled, faster time, like you're expected to do more in less time. It is something to reach for and to strive for. And that's not necessarily what a goal. Maybe some people don't even want to get there. The goal is just to be healthy and fit.
Yep.
And you don't need to reach for that, but some people do want to reach for that performance. And that's perfectly fine. You can still get really fit just doing the lowest level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to keep away all the chronic disease and keep you healthy and fit for your life and be able to do whatever life throws at you. But if you reaching for something is very motivating.
Yep.
It helps you keep pushing that envelope. Like a lot of people start with us because they get tired of running, right? Everybody starts out running and they're like, oh, I just run every day and it gets boring. Well, we mix it up. So we mix up the workouts, but then I think I'm really close to a pull-up. I think I can get it. But that's always like an L2 movement, and it just gives you a little something more to reach for.
You have a tangible, attainable goal.
Yeah. But all that being said, those levels provide us a way to learn the mechanics and work on the consistency before, we bring that intensity in.
Yep.
And, so that kind of encompasses brings together
there we go.
Some of the three biggest fears that I have seen that people tell me that they have. And I hope that those looking at, everybody starts there. Everybody knows what it's like to walk into the gym the first time. Nobody starts from a perfect place, right? We all have room to grow, and room to get in better shape. And then finally, our whole goal is to improve your quality of life and your health and fitness. If you're hurt, we're not reaching our goal. Yep. To help you, right? We want to help.
Yep. If you are curious about starting CrossFit or a little afraid or anything, please get in touch with us or Berek or Contact Equity. We'll be happy to talk to you or set up a no-sweat intro. If you know someone who's curious about it, or if you just want to share this, please feel free. We'd love to spread the word about CrossFit.
Yeah, I can share. It helps us out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So now that's wrapped up, we're moving on to some member questions. And our first question is from Nicole Merrick. She wants to spend the stimulus cash on something, wants to get some new gear, and she's asking what would be a solid choice to start with that cash.
Yeah, we touched on this in the last podcast a little bit.
Yeah.
The biggest bang for your buck, in my opinion, is going to be rings and somewhere to mount those rings, obviously.
Yep.
And dumbbells. And when I say dumbbells, I do not mean a set of 0 to 50. I mean, if you can do that, that's fine. But just get a few. Like, think of some weights that are good for you. Like, for a female, something like 10s, 20s, and 35s. Like a set of each would be a great place to start. Those are really good. After that, a bench would be really helpful, and then some kind of cardio equipment. I think the best bang for your buck is a rower.
Yep.
That is an investment, but it's just the maintenance on those is so low. The range of motion that you use is so much better than a bike.
Yep.
It can stand up. It can be set down. They're just really helpful. Outside of that, then it starts getting into what do you like doing? Like what's going to bring you the most joy? What's going to make you consistent in it? So whatever that thing is, a jump rope is probably be another good one, and super cheap. Right?
Yeah, jump rope's not going to take a lot out.
$10,
yep.
Right? Doesn't take up a lot of room. That'd be another good one. That's
me.
probably where I'd get started.
Yeah. Our second question is from Katie Hunzinger, and she asks, why use the L1 through L3 group methods since the intensity within groups is different, but potentially not across groups and not prescription based upon known 1 rep max?
So I'm going to reword that. Is why don't we just use percentages? I think that's a fair assumption. If I'm getting that wrong, Katie, just let us know.
I'm sure she will.
So the problem with just using percentages is that percentages are actually just as different than anything else.
Yep.
When somebody comes in and doesn't know anything, a percentage doesn't help them at all. And then also, life doesn't care what your percentage is, right? It doesn't matter. If I need to move, right? If I need to carry a wheelbarrow, right? I'm not going to be like, well, I can only put X amount of weight in this because that's a percentage of what I need to move that. And if I can't do it and Krista has to do it and it's the same weight, well, she has to do that too, right? So it doesn't. If we were just working on specific strengths, like an Olympic weightlifting program, it makes perfect sense to work off of your specific percentages. Yep. Because there's a very distinct linear progression on that. But for us, that we're not aiming at any specific goal. We're just trying to be healthy and fit, and it's not conducive to what we're doing. So for Fran, it's 95-65. If you happen to be stronger, well, you're going to be able to move that weight faster. Mm-hmm. But if I'm not as strong, maybe I can move faster on the pull-ups. So, it's different for everybody. A percentage, I think, puts us into a pigeonhole. Yep. Now, that does not mean using percentages is a bad thing, because there is times we do use percentages, but on Metcons, our general workouts, we generally don't use them for that.
Our last question comes from Michele Ness.
But before he reads this, I paraphrased this. So this is not her exact words. This is my wording.
Is this censored?
This is what my head told me Michelle said when she sent me the text.
Is this censored? I feel like this is censored. So Berek for Michelle asks, I go full dummy when my heart rate is around 170. How do I fix that?
Basically what I did was I took that question. I was like, how can I make this funnier? That's exactly how I want it. So she's been tracking her heart rate a lot. And that is something that can be super useful. That's more data that you can take in and be like, oh, when I get to 170, my brain tells me this hurts and I want to stop doing it. So she's realized that almost every single time when she gets there, she's getting to a bad place. And she's like, well, what do I do to do that? How do I fix that? What I think is happening is she's reaching her max heart rate. All right. And when you reach your max heart rate, there's not much you can do. Now, I don't think, I'm not a scientist. I have not done research on this. But from my understanding, you cannot increase your max heart rate. You might, maybe a little bit, but you can't increase your max heart rate very much. So instead, there's two ways to think about this. The first way is short term. All right. Once I get to 170, I know I'm going to crash. So if I'm doing a workout, don't get to that point, right? If you crash, everything's going to get burned. Think about the mile, running a mile. If you get in that first 400 meters, you get to 170, you know the rest of that mile is going to be a bad time. But if you pace that and you stay at 160, right, 163 or something like that, or, under that threshold, you'll be able to hold that pace longer, increasing that time on that workout, right? Yep. So that's the first thing, is learning how to pace, not letting your heart rate jump up and down, because then you're just going to be standing around waiting for it to get down or waiting to recover, right? The second piece, which is what I think she was actually asking, is how do I get better at this? And the thing is, our goal isn't to increase the max heart rate, right? It's not to be like, oh, all right, instead of going dummy at 170, how do I go dummy at 180? I don't think that's the right way to think about it. What we want to do is we want to be able to do more work before we get to that. Does that make sense? We want to be able to, let's say if I do 100 double unders unbroken, that's going to get me to 170. What we want to be able to do is to be able to do 100 double unders, but stay at 150.
Yep.
That should be the goal. It's not hitting the max heart rate. It's being able to do a lot of work without the heart rate going higher.
Yep.
That's what cardiovascular endurance is. That's what we want to do. And a good way to do that is through interval training, going really hard and then getting a full rest, going really hard, and becoming more efficient in movements is going to help with that as well. Mm-hmm. And I guess there is a third part to this. It's the mental side, the mental and physical toughness. If being able, when it starts to hurt, to tell your brain, no, you're fine, and just keep going. And that's something where I personally need to write something down. So on a whiteboard or chalkboard or on the mats, or if you're at your home, write it on something and be like, write a little mantra on the ground. So when it gets hard, you can start giving yourself that positive self-talk. Hey, I need stop being a little bitch. We're going to get that MA rating now.
Is that our first curse word on the podcast?
I said ass earlier. Stop being a little bitch and lady up, and let's do some work. And that's really hard to do, especially now having to work from home. I know that's one of the hardest things that I've had to fight is I just take longer rests.
Yeah.
And I don't need them. Well,
it's easy. There's no one watching you and no one.
Yeah.
There's no exterior pressure.
Yeah. So being able to work that mindset as well. And that's not something that's easy. You have to be very mindful of improving your mindset.
Yep. All right. Thanks for watching and listening, guys. If you have any questions, comments, or anything, you can send them to info@equity.fitness. Leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. If you saw this on the blog, you can comment there. Message me or Berek. Please like and subscribe. It helps us out a lot. And share this episode. We think it'd be really helpful for people that are kind of on the fence about it. This might give them that extra push to get in here and get started. Thanks for watching. Have a good week.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.